All right. So a lot of you may know that I used to work with a lot of physicians in the medical field. I was in medical sales for about 10 years, and I watched a lot of physicians were really not great with money. And it's funny how the skills that make you a great physician don't always make you a great investor. A lot of times it involves practicing medicine is trying to make sure and prove certain things out. A lot of times with investing, there's not a lot of immediate certainty as far as how things are going to perform. Well, my guest today, Vikram Raya, has grown a huge portfolio, over $600 million in multifamily. That's probably actually an old number. But anyway, he's been uber successful coming from his background as a physician, and also loves biohacking and health. And so we're going to have a lot to talk about today. So really excited to have you today, Vikram. How are you?
Bronson, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, man, I have so much respect for what you're doing. Obviously, your background, you're a physician, and you still are a physician. And just can you take us through a little bit of your story and kind of how you got where you are? Because you've obviously done a lot of things. And I know for a lot of physicians, they get paid really well. A lot of people think, man, if you're a physician, you're making good money. Like, why would you ever want to leave that to go do real estate? So tell us a little bit of your story and kind of the why behind why you decided to make a switch.
Absolutely. I shouldn't even be here, man. I should be like somewhere in some clinic or a hospital or in a cath lab somewhere. But
Right.
I'm here with you because I figured out sometimes your dreams, Bronson, are not your destiny. And my dream initially was to really become a doctor. And initially it was given to me, meaning hammered into me because of my parents. I'm like, hey, you're going to be a doctor. I'm like, no, I don't want to. And then, actually in undergrad, I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And then med school comes along and, I actually like it and I enjoy it. And it was sort of a challenge to get in. So more of that kind of challenge. And then I was like, actually, there's a challenge of falling in love with patients and really like trying to serve them and take care of them. So it was really an honorable pursuit. And then when people in my own family died of heart attacks, I'm like, I got to study the heart. I got to figure out, why people are dying all over the world of heart attacks. Why are people being taken from me too soon? And then, so cardiology was on my mind. So after I went to Georgetown in DC, then I was like, all right, let me in that. And I got into cardiology, and getting into cardiology is one of the most difficult things to do in medicine. And it's a very competitive specialty. And so I didn't make it the first time. And that taught me adversity and taught me skills and taught me how to like recoup and like configure and come up with better strategies. And also taught me how to take massive action. And so once I got in, I was like, oh, the lights came on me. I'm like, sun parted. And I was like, hey, is this it? Are we done? Have I made it in life? And what happened was I had a rude awakening when I started practicing, and I was seeing all these other doctors, and they were like slaves to their practice. They were doing things sometimes that were not mainstream. They were doing things more financially oriented versus patient oriented. And I was like, I made a declaration. I was like, if I'm still practicing by the age of 40 and I had started practicing by 33, I was like, and all my money's coming from cardiology, something went terribly wrong. And so I made that declaration. And that's one of the things you want your listeners to learn. When you want something in life, you make a declaration. You don't forget the how, forget the logistics, but just say, hey, this is what I want. This is what I stand for. I will not settle in life. I'm raising my standards and I'm declaring to the universe what I want. And I said that. So then I'm like, let me explore other ways to make money. So when I practice, it's for the love of the game. It's because I truly enjoy it. Right. So then I tried, stock investing. I tried options investing, things, it didn't really pan out. And I was like, what makes sense? What do most of the world has done? And that, in general, you don't need a high IQ for, you just need high hustle. And it was essentially real estate. So going down the Kiyosaki pathway and we're reading the famous books everyone reads, and then just like figuring it out, like, all right, let's do the single family thing. So I did that for a while I was practicing full time. And then I hit another roadblock. I'm like, this is great, but I'm making, multiple six figures. I'm not going to house hack my way to multiple six figures consistently. So I figured out how do you do what I call LGS, leverage, growth, and scale. And then this person came and spoke to me at a real estate investment meeting where he talked about multifamily and syndications and, growing a portfolio. And then the interesting thing was, he goes, you don't have to do it with your own money. You can raise capital. I'm like, raise capital? It didn't even occur to my mind. It was just like a mind warp of a possibility. So then, I marinated on it for about 12 months. And then I finally talked to my buddy Ravi, who was a doctor. He's a hospitalist. He's practicing. He had a small real estate portfolio. He thought he was very cool. He had like, I don't know, 6-plex or 8-plex. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm retired. I'm a doctor. I'm cool. I'm like, hey, bro, let's take this to the next level. Like, do you want to really play, or are you, you're happy with your like 2 to 4 or 5 units, whatever you have? And so we teamed up, and we're like, let's do it big, and so we created Viking Capital, and we still didn't know how we're gonna do it, but we're like, we're gonna figure this out. And so we entered real estate in the co-GP model, and I know, Bronson, you're familiar with that. So that's how I first got into large scale multifamily real estate. That's how I took my cardiology knowledge and started, adding other layers of knowledge to that. And I went from being, doctors are usually the worst investors in the world, to hopefully I've become one of the better ones.
Yeah, no, you said a lot there, man. I don't want to just unpack some of it. Now, were your parents both physicians?
No, I was the first doctor in the family.
Okay. So it's really interesting because people that are physicians, they say this has changed over the years. They say now 9 out of 10 physicians will tell their kids not to become physicians. They'll tell them, just because how Medicare is squeezing people, and it's just, in the 60s, doctors were making a lot of money. It was a much different kind of world than it is now. But so you had the desire, obviously, I think it sounds like, to have control of your time, to face, more growth and challenges. And when I look at you, Vikram, I think we have some similarities, that you're a learner and you love growing, you love learning, you love learning new things, whether it's, health stuff, or it's stuff in, in investing, and just and also even with the challenge of becoming a cardiologist. But I used to work with a lot of cardiologists in the cath lab where you worked, and so a lot of interventionalists, and it is highly, highly competitive, very highly skilled, very interesting. But to make that transition, I know a lot of our listeners too are getting paid a lot, either in the business, or they're getting paid a lot through their job, and it becomes kind of a golden handcuff thing. So it sounds like you were really hustling while you were working full time. I mean, you were probably working pretty crazy hours there for a while. You're doing a lot of hours in your full-time job, and that's kind of what I was doing too, or I was doing a lot of hours in the job, and then you're hustling on the side, and then you found a way to kind of bridge it. And then you said something I want to touch base on, the idea of a declaration. I use affirmations. I do like 15 affirmations every morning, and I've just watched my wealth, my confidence, my health, all these different things in my life change just by keeping those things, whether it's a vision board or declarations. But Tony Robbins has this saying. He says it's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped, right? So it sounds like you made that decision, you declared it, and then it began to take shape in your life. So what advice do you have to somebody who's working a full-time job, and maybe they want to, become more passive and just, replace their income through passive investments, or maybe they want to do what you and I are doing and syndicating big deals? Like, what are some ways to kind of get started to learn more?
Sometimes, like all these things, like, hey, everyone around me is doing real estate, let me do real estate, or everyone around me is doing X, Y, and Z. Stop playing in other people's sandboxes. Go find your own sandbox.
It's like a t-shirt. Go find your own sandbox. I think you should wear that around.
Go find your own sandbox and make sure it's not crowded, and start living your authentic life. And I say that because if you try to like parrot other people's success and try to do it their way, it ends up being sort of a half truth, and it doesn't fulfill you in the end. Because in the end, all of you are going to have enough money to do really well in life. All of you are going to, be really successful. But the goal is to have the success to where it doesn't even feel like work. And I've actually finally found the joy in doing that. So,
That's
at
great.
the moment you're calling me and we're reaching out and we're doing this Zoom interview, I run a high performance coaching program for physicians who are ready to break out, who are ready to level up. On top of that, I have a functional medicine practice that's very digital oriented. And so it's essentially, I'm taking people through wellness, biohacking, and health improvements where I'm physically not involved, but I'm taking them through that, digitally. And I have other coaches that are helping. And then on top of that, I run a real estate private equity company that, we have 650 million. We are just closed our first fund, ready to launch something new. And we've helped entrepreneurs and professionals all over the country. And then on top of that, I coach my kids' soccer games. On top of that, I do Muay Thai kickboxing. On top of that, I just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. On top of that,
wow,
I just spoke at a conference. And on top of that, me and my wife have date nights. And on top of that, my goal is to, maintain my 6-pack and push the limits of my physical fitness to the next level. So what I'm trying to say is God gave you commas and you're using periods, my friends. You don't fit in a
Mm.
neat box. You can have it all, declare it, decide on it, figure out your vision and make it your authentic vision and do it. And the wealth will come because it's figuring out things that are what I call ELF, Bronson, easy, lucrative, and fun. So if you're
Mm.
really good at sales, maybe you take sales and partner with something else you love, and there it is. If you love like being a high level consultant, maybe you go and help all these people with their companies and you get a piece of equity, but you don't necessarily need to run your own company, right? There's so many ways to the path where if you want more money, more free time, you can achieve that. And right now syndications are really popular and a lot of people are getting into them. But that's not necessarily, if that's not your thing, you don't have to do it. There's other ways to do it. People are doing self-storage, they're doing note buying. Some people are buying companies and turning them around. I mean, there's so many ways to get wealthy. And to be honest with you, it's once you figure it out, you're like, now what? Like, I've actually figured out how to get wealthy, but I'm not as fulfilled as I thought I was, right? So me and you are Tony Robbins fans, right? We know that there's a science of achievement and there's an art of fulfillment. So I would say figure out the mountain you're climbing, make sure it's the right mountain, climb it, and before you get to the top, make sure that you find another mountain and get ready to climb that. But realize that it's all about what Ed Milet calls blissful discontent, where you're blissed out during your progress, but you want to grow and contribute, and that's why you're keep pushing. Because the other way to do it is just be content with nothing and just sort of monk out, if you will. But I think in this modern day and age, the way to achieve success and fulfillment and be happy and be conscious and be present is like really pursuing things that are going to have a greater impact on the world, on yourself, and that will pay you. But enjoy, the journey. So a little more than more philosophical than I would like to get into, but oh well.
No, that's great. But I think it's really, you mentioned all the things you're doing. And too, I get some people say, how do you do all this? And you run Spartans and you raise all this money. How are you doing all this stuff? And it comes from passion. It comes from drive. And I think, you talked about a number of things there. You talked about the idea of, playing your own sandbox. There's a marketing term that says find the blue ocean space, right? Not the place that's a red ocean where all the sharks are fighting. Go to some place that's you and it fits you. And then also I thought of something you said. It reminded me of a friend and I were talking about someone else, and we just realized, this person just kind of needs to do their own work. And when you do your own work, it some of the, therapy or personal development or other things like that, just to try to figure out what you really want and how to become more free. And once you have that, then you can really go, the easy, lucrative fun. You can do things that, when I talk to you, you don't seem like you're tired or, oh, I'm just so tired. You have a lot of energy. You're bringing energy to what you're doing. And I think that's really attractive for a lot of people because they're like, well, I want a life. Like I want to be able to do all these things. But I think that, some of the people that I watch that just have no energy, they have no passion. They have no passion for anything in their life. And I think discovering passion and following passions, like you said, climbing a mountain, and you literally just climbed Kilimanjaro. So what is your next mountain, Vikram? What are you going to climb after this one?
Yeah. My wife's like, all right, you're not doing anything for a little while. Figuratively, it could be, or realistically, I was thinking Everest Base Camp or Aconcagua. I can't say it. It's the big tall mountain in South America. That'd be fun, but now, in the book, The One Thing, it talks about there's no such thing as balance. There's only counterbalance. So what I did was I pushed really hard. I climbed this mountain. It was a physical feat. It was a mental feat. I did it with some, bonding with my brother and a few other folks. And then on top of that, right after that, I had to go and fly out to LA and speak at a conference where there's 1,000 doctors. And I had to perform and show them, really like how they can outthink their circumstances, overcome their limiting beliefs, and really achieve success, right? But then after that, I'm like, look, I need to go back to my family. I need to be centered again. I need to go back to routines. And so I'm saying no to any other opportunities there are, unless it's like the real, like a real estate capital project for us. But otherwise, I'm really doubling down on my family and my wife because I have what we call sensory acuity. I know when I've gone too far one way, now I need to go back the other way. And so this is how I can be married to my job and to my wife and be successful in both, right? So it's like, you gotta, as an entrepreneur, as a high income individual earner, yes, sometimes you'll have to go push, like when Bronson's doing a big deal, he's really pushing it hard, but then he'll come back to his home, his center, his grounding. And so right now, that's what I feel like, look, I need to serve my wife. I need to, uh, here's a concept for your listeners, Bronson. A lot of people want to become 7-figure earners, but are they 7-figure husbands or wives,
That's good.
or husbands or wives? Are they 7-figure dads or moms? Are they 7-figure charitable folks? They have a 7-figure health, right? And maybe this is a good segue into like how to get healthy, how to biohack, how to take functional medicine, wherever you want to take it. But you got to be a king in all your domains. Otherwise, I think you're living a half-lived life.
Well, it really is true. I mean, if you're successful and you, there's even the famous verse that's like, what does it profit you to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul? And I think your soul, it can be spiritual, but it's also the sense like with your wife or your kids, or, what's really important. And I think a lot of achievers can be so committed to the goal. There's this thing called the Enneagram, which is a personality test. And if you're the achiever type, which I imagine you probably are, I am, it's the Enneagram 3. And basically the dark side, there's the plus side, you can just get so much stuff done, you can achieve these great things. But the challenge is you can actually deceive yourself or deceive others, because you just know exactly what it takes to get to the goal and you just become that. And then you can kind of lose your heart in the path of doing that. And when you talk about kind of coming back and grounding and figuring out what's important and, the people in your life and the values, the things that you value, I think that is awesome. But yeah, let's go down a little more of the road of health hacking. I know, a lot of people are interested in how to, you get a 6-pack and maintain it, or how do you, as far as obviously you're in great shape, you're climbing mountains, you're doing all this stuff. What are just maybe a few things people can do for their health? I mean, obviously, I think it was Mark Twain said the first wealth is health. So, let's say if you live to 60 and you have, and we cardiology, I used to see it in the cath lab. People were 60 and they were chain smokers and 30, or to 200 pounds overweight, and then you were dying young, versus somebody who lives to 90 and has a better quality of life. What are a few things kind of people can do just to kind of help take control of their health?
So my top 5 for everyone listening, and again, you may already be healthy, you may not be healthy, you may be thinking, hey, you're really healthy, and that's great. So here's the 5 fundamentals, and then we can layer on top of that. The 5 fundamentals are this: the 10,000 steps things, it's a real thing. Go ahead and do it, guys. And that's not exercise. That's called living your life. 10,000 steps is not like, oh man, I'm so proud of myself, I did 10,000 steps. No, man, that our forefathers did 30,000 steps a day probably. So It's like 10,000 steps is so you're not a sedentary, bum on your chair. Number 2, sleep. I've tried to make a pact with the devil and try to get away with less sleep, and over the years I think it's caught up. So I have a new appreciation for sleep. So my thought process is get your 7 hours in and create a reverse alarm, an alarm when you need to start winding down. And so I want to teach your audience the 10-3-2-1-0 rule. 10 equals the number of hours before bed where you stop all caffeine. 3, no more heavy food or alcohol before sleep. 2 hours before bed, no technology, right? You're shutting down. 1 hour before bed, no phone, no blue lights. And 0, the number of times you press snooze because you want to get into a good routine. And then the more you can make your weekdays and weekends match, and then you're going to have a lot more stability in life. Their circadian rhythms don't like, hey, on the weekends I sleep in, on the weekdays I don't. Do it that way, and that way you actually have more free time. And then in terms of time hacking, everyone, I wish I had more time to do this. I wish I had more time. Guys, you do have more time. Okay. There's a secret morning slot called a Saturday morning slot that I recommend all my coaching clients do. And it's before all your kids and your wife or spouse or whoever wakes up. And you can do a 60-minute block on what I call NUI time, not urgent, but important time. It's where your dreams are created. It's where things that you need to learn, you have time to learn something. It's where you're making plans for the future. It's where you're looking at your vision board. It's where you're doing creative visualization of your life. So that's a secret slot in the morning, and the rest of your time is all family. No one's saying take away your family time, but it's Saturday morning before everyone gets up. Boom. It's it's an hour, it's 45 minutes, and it's a little slot that I recommend. Okay. Going back to the fundamentals. We talked about sleep. We talked about steps. Next one is hydration. 3 liters a day, non-negotiable, unless you have liver cirrhosis or kidney issues or heart failure, but otherwise drink your 3 liters. That's a lot of water. and try to do it before 7 o'clock so you don't pee all night. Okay. Number 4, you need some kind of nutritional program, something to follow. If you don't have something, consider something like Whole30 or like a vegan diet, which is a paleo vegan diet, which is essentially 25% of your plate is either meat or plant-based protein, and 75% is all vegetables, right? If you follow that, you're going to do really well. And then, okay, what else? You need to do strength training, right? So a lot of people exercise, but very few people strength train. So I think, I don't care what age you are, if you're 80 or you're 18, you need to start doing at least 2 to 3 days of strength training a week. And then I think those are the main ones, man. Like those 5 things will really get you there. Your water, your weights, your sleep, your nutrition, and really will protect you and your health. And then if you do all that and you want to go to the next level, I recommend one super supplement that I take, and I've recommended to, I think, 150 people, high performers all over the world, and it's called Athletic Greens. And it's simple, 75 nutrients and ingredients, minerals, everything, all in one thing. And it's a greens, and you powder, you mix it with cold water first thing in the morning, and if you take it, man, boom, you're on fire. And so I think those are some of the basic principles. And then back to, again, what do you want? Why do you want it? How bad do you want it? And what's the price you're willing to pay to achieve it? And don't try to have too many goals in one year. Stick to fewer goals, but go deeper with them, and then milestone them out. Like, to climb Kilimanjaro, I had to go through about 8 base camps. So similar to getting your goal and scaling your mountain, you want to break down your goals. And Bronson gives a great point. Quarterly goals are a great way to do it. So maybe for every one, like maybe you have 3 major life goals for this year. Of those 3 life goals, you break those 3 goals down into 4 parts, and then you execute every 90 days on those goals. And so by the end of the year, you go from possible to probable to inevitable, right?
Yeah.
And now you're not guessing for your success. You're programming your success.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. That's some great. I was just taking notes here, man. I hope our listeners, hope you're taking notes as well. I mean, that was awesome. So you got the 10,000 steps, sleep, hydration, nutrition, strength, and then of course supplements are awesome. So I'm sure we could talk a lot more about that. You shared a little bit offline some of the things you're doing as well, but love that, because I think it's just a central part of life. We've got a few more minutes left. I want to talk a little bit about the business side and just kind of what you're seeing right now. We're seeing in multifamily, obviously investor sentiment is a little bit more cautious when it comes to just, rising interest rates, particularly in multifamily. And then of course you're having to raise, we're seeing, having to raise more money for the same deals. I'm a huge fan of multifamily as an inflation hedge, as well as, growing, income is rising, all these, there's a lot of positives there, but a lot of investors are kind of showing a pause. What are you seeing on your end? Are you seeing people kind of have some hesitancy, or what would you say to someone who's looking at multifamily, but they're not sure as far as being an investor in a deal right now?
Yeah, I think they should sell all their real estate and put everything in crypto. No,
yeah. Mic drop. We're done.
What did he say?
What kind of podcast is this? I thought this was a real estate podcast. This is all assets, but
no. Listen, guys. Here's my thoughts on ROI. You want a 30x return? I'll tell you an investment. It's called investing in yourself and your mindset. That's a 30x return.
Love it.
Number 2, you want a 5 to 10x mindset. 5 to 10x ROI. You need to invest in your own business. So if you have a clinic, or if you have a law practice, if you have an engineering firm, I don't know, by you figuring that out, you will get a 10x ROI on your own business. After that, the next best investment is real estate. So consistently throughout the life of this world, 5,000 years of real estate track record success since the dawn of time has been real estate. So you consistently can get anywhere between a 1.5 to a 5x return in real estate. So I say usually 2 to 4x return. So I say real estate should be part of your portfolio. 90% of the Fortune 500 people either have made their wealth in real estate or retain their wealth in real estate. So real estate is going to be around for the long run. You missed. Oh man, Vic Bronson, man, I missed out on 2008. Well, guess what? It's coming again. And it's not coming that serious, but it's still coming. We need a correction. We need a slowdown, because if it kept going as it is, you would have never been able to get in. Now you can get in. So what am I seeing? I'm a multifamily investor. I'm a syndicator. I have a real estate private equity firm, and we're looking at about 9 markets all over the country. We have a team that was able to analyze, I don't know, almost 2,000 deals to find 7 to 8 that work. So we're really going through the numbers. What we're seeing is this: interest rates are going up. Yes. Less competition. Yes. Pricing is improving. Yes. So do we believe in the fundamentals? Yeah. I think in the Sunbelt states, in those key markets, real estate will still appreciate over time. We're not going to get 20% year-over-year returns like we're getting. That's fine. We may getting 3 to 5% returns, and we're putting very conservative numbers in our rent growth projections. Is it more expensive now to buy a home? It is. Interest rates are high and prices are still high. So people will have to rent. So I still believe in the multifamily investment thesis. People always need a place to rent. There'll be times where rents are going to go gangbuster like they did, and then there'll be more mitigated rent growth, which is what's happening over the next few years. That's okay too. We don't need crazy rent growth. And remember, we don't bank on appreciation always. There's organic appreciation, which sometimes happens in some crazy markets like Phoenix and Austin and other thing. Now, there's something called forced appreciation. So Bronson and I, when we invest, we create our appreciation because we're doing value add. So that value add story will always be there for us. And then, okay, fine. I used to get a 1.8 to 2x in 5 years. Okay, maybe it needs to go to 6 or 7 years, but you'll still get it. Okay, cash flow is not as great year one. Okay, fine. Is it being accrued by whoever you're working with? Okay, fine. Then take it. You'll be accrued, and maybe it's a little bit lower year one, but then year 2 and year 3 it builds back up. The consensus is interest rates are going to go up until, I don't know, end of this year, maybe beginning of the next, and then they will eventually migrate down because we'll be in sort of not a mild recession per se, but some kind of correction of some sort. The other lever the Fed has to do is they know how to lower interest rates, and they've proven that they're willing to do it once they see a true quote unquote recessionary environment. So I expect interest rates, no one has a crystal ball, but they'll go up probably a couple more times, and then they'll either stabilize or they'll start coming down because we'll have a true slowdown.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. And my goal is to dollar cost average this whole way through, where I keep buying deals as long as the numbers make sense. And I buy in good areas, in good markets, good assets with a good value add plan. And I run it very well. And you only lose in real estate if you sell at the wrong time. So I make sure I have good debt to where I can hold it longer if I need to, and I will win at the end. And so will you, and so will every other real estate investor, because that's how you play the game.
Yeah, really. I mean, you brought up the value add approach. I mean, it's really what I just came out with a video and an article that was talking about. I only do value add deals for that reason, because you create the appreciation. For people that are only doing Class A stuff, it's like if there's a recession, in Pasadena, California, where I live, there's 2-bedroom apartments in a nice part of town going for $4,200 a month. And if there's a recession, they're not going to be getting $4,200. They're going to be getting a lot less. And so, you don't have any sort of margin of safety unless you're doing a value add in the deal. And so, like where we do stuff in Sunbelt, Jacksonville, Florida, primarily, we're just seeing, a lot of upside in rent still. And so, I think like you said, that's awesome. Is people, there's a huge shortage of housing. There's a shortage of housing, and rates are rising a little bit, but in general, inflation is very high. I think it's, I'm putting as much as I can into deals, and the deals are honestly getting better, which is great. Vikram, this has been awesome, and I feel like we could talk for hours on just travel
let me factor in one more thing.
Sure.
Guys, where else would you put your money? Okay, fine, real estate is potentially, I'm not sure about. Okay, are you gonna put in crypto? Probably not. Are you gonna put it in the stock market? Well, if you have been, you've probably gotten killed. And then are you gonna keep it in cash and hope? And you can put in a treasury bond and get 4%, fine. But if you leave it in cash, I mean, first of all, even if you put in a treasury bond, inflation is 10%, so you're losing 6% every year. So really, it's hard to find a good place to put your money. So in multifamily, us on a bad deal is like 1.5x return. On a good deal, it's like 2.5, potentially 3x. I still believe in the fundamental value of what we're doing. I mean, it's really hard to argue that there's a long term, there's consistently a better place to put your money.
That's it. There's a saying or an acronym called TINA, which is there is no alternative, right? Like what alternative do you have that's better than multifamily real estate. And I just call it the bread and butter of investing. I mean, you can do stocks, you can do all these other things or crypto, where are you going to put, your bulk of your wealth? If you just sit in cash, you're going to lose a lot of your wealth just due to inflation. So I think having it, in assets that pay you to hold them is huge. So Vikram, this is awesome, man. I so appreciate you. I just want to appreciate how you're really, taking life by the horns and going for it and really clarified, you seem very clear on your goals and what you want and where you're, and you're seeing incredible success in many areas of your life. And I really commend you not only for doing that, but also calling other people out to say, hey, you can do this as well. And so I love that you're teaching people not just to make money, but to really have a better life. And I think that's something that I aspire to. So I just admire you for that. Appreciate that. How can people learn more about you and what you're doing and your business and following you?
Yeah, VikingMultifamily.com is our real estate company. I'd love to help them get educated on the possibilities of things out there. Be part of our education, our webinars, our podcast. And then, if we have opportunities, love for you guys to join us. VikingMultifamily.com.
Yeah, so awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Vikram Raya in the house. You've been spending time with Bronson Hill and Vikram Raya, and appreciate each one of you. And please reach out to Vikram. Thanks, Vikram, for the time.
Cheers, Bronson.
All right, so Vikram Raya, awesome guy. Just really, I love his passion for life. I love the way that he is so intentional about what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Enjoy the journey, make a decision, be deliberate about it, make a declaration of where you want to be, because those things, they are powerful. They begin to change your life. And so for you, I hope that, listening to all these podcasts and watching YouTube and all this information, it's good, but it's information and it's not really, it doesn't change your life unless it becomes transformation. And how that happens is you connect with a person, you find a partner to work with, you make a decision that you're going to change your actions and you're going to go after your dreams. And so I really hope for you, you can pinpoint something in your life that if you just listen to a podcast a day, or if it's doing real estate deals, you're calling a broker a day, or you're analyzing a couple deals a week, or whatever, you're finding out how to become financially free. And that's what the Mailbox Money Show is all about, is basically helping you to achieve passive income to replace your ordinary income. And you can leave your job. You can do the things that you value. For me, I've had 5 international trips this year. I've got another one coming up in a couple of months, and I love it. And I just love feeling like I'm experiencing life. I love spending time with people that I love, spending time with my daughter. And really, my big why is fighting human trafficking in the world. So I get to be involved in causes like that I really believe in. So I hope that for you, friend, you're able to really find a way to generate enough wealth and also to have the purpose behind it, that you're able to go after the things that you dream about, and you have to go out after in a very powerful way. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you're not on our deal, the Bronson Equity deal list, you're not hearing about our deals. We're having some awesome deals right now, both in multifamily and the ATM space, other spaces as well. And so I encourage you to go to bronsonequity.com and click the join button. You can join our deals. But anyway, thanks for taking the time to educate yourself. It is a way that you actually grow as an individual, which is more important than just growing your wealth. So look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.